Wait, this one is, wait, is this the routine module or the easy module? Okay, yeah, no worry, Andy. Okay, let's do the last 20 seconds. So I think everyone got the right answer. The right answer is D. For routine module data evidence question, the question usually won't be too hard. You just need to look for the corresponding information. So here the passage is saying that the graph shows three of the factors mentioned in the interviews and the percentage of participants who mentioned them. And the question is asking for the percentage of participants mentioned costs in the interview. So it will be this part because cost is the white bar, and then the corresponding percent is 50%, so that's why it's D. Okay, that's very good. Uh, Wait, let me double check. I think it might be because, oh, I see. It might be because we were looking at the easy module. Yeah, let's also take a look at the routine module question then. I think this time it's gonna be a little bit harder. Yeah, let's take a look at question number 8. This is a cross-text question. And yeah, just a little bit hint for a cross-text question. Remember, we always need to identify the main claim from both texts. And then we need to compare the relationship between the two texts. They're either opposite to each other, or they are agreeing with each other, or they're somehow just relevant to each other. Maybe talking about the same claim but from different perspectives. Okay. And usually for cross-text questions, and then for actually any question type, you always start by looking at the question. So the question says, how would the other text most likely respond to what some researchers contend as described in text 1? So you probably wanted to figure out, what's the claim those researchers mentioned in text 1 first, and then try to understand the perspective that the other text 2 takes. Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys around 1.5 minutes. See if you could get it right. All right, let's do last 20 seconds. I think most of you guys got it right. Yeah, and then if you already put your answer, then my next question is what's the main claim in text 1 and text 2, respectively? Yeah, because I think uh in the last 3 reading classes, we spent a lot of time talking about the hint words for the main claim and how to identify the main claim and then solve the question. So till now, you guys should be able to just quickly identify the main claim. All right, let's see. Johnson says main claim from text one: plates began 3 billion years ago with the help of computer models of Earth. Main claim from text two is plates began 4.2 billion years ago with the help of geochemistry. That's like, yeah, that's very perfect. Okay, yeah, and it says claims are when did the tectonic plates moving? Very good. So usually we start from text one, and then we specifically start from here because this is indicating this sentence will be the main claim. And here it says that they believed tectonic movements began around 3 billion years ago. And the reasoning is here. It's based on computer models. And then it's very clear that text 2 is against the use of computer models because it mentions at the first sentence that any possible claim about the inception tectonic movement must rest on empirical evidence from geological record rather than computer simulation. And then it moves on to talk about how those researchers make use of the geological data and find a more compelling evidence that supports the plate tectonics being occurred as early as 4.2 billion years ago. So that's why there's a more definitive form of evidence and suggesting a different timeline. Okay, type 1 in the chat box if that makes sense. Yeah, usually when it comes to harder module, the question is going to be hard, but the logic stays the same. You just try your best to identify the main claim and then compare the relationships and then solve the question. Okay, some students get confused by those redundant information or those detailed information. That's definitely not going to be the focus for a cross-text question at least. Okay, the next one is going to be question number 9. Yeah, this is also a very good question. And let's take 2 minutes, see if you guys could get it right. Yeah, this one is a kind of a relatively tricky question, so probably wanted to use exclusion method to solve it. Okay, I see two groups of answers. Okay. Uh, so I think so some people picked A and some people picked B. Uh, let's first identify the main claim here. Which sentence do you guys think it should be the main claim? Or you could also just summarize it a little bit. Like, what's the main idea that we can get from this passage? Since the question is asking, what statement is best supported by the text, so you have to fully understand the text. And Elizabeth said the second sentence. Okay, let's start by reading the second sentence. So water temperature at this site climbed as high as 11 degrees Celsius, much warmer than the ambient 1.6 degrees. Okay, and I think that's not enough because it only talks about the temperature at this place, but it does not really talk about the octopuses and why they like why they are like they aggregate at this place, right? So it's kind of like a summary, I would say. The main idea from this passage is that all of the there's an immense aggregation of octopuses at this specific site because of the high temperature. Okay, the unusually high temperature here enables them to have some reproductive benefits. And it's used exclusively for reproduction because there's only adults and then no juveniles were present. So, if they're still juveniles, then they're gonna leave, and then when they grow to an adult, they're gonna come back to this place and reproduce. Okay, that's the key. That's the key logic from the passage, and then we could just use the exclusion method to solve the question. For option A says, this kind of octopus they leave the octopus garden upon reaching an intermediate stage of development. That is true because according to the passage, it says no juveniles were present, which means once they, grow to a juvenile, they're gonna leave the garden. And that's an intermediate stage because once they, fully grow to an adult, they're gonna come back to this place and reproduce. So we're gonna save A for now. Okay, and B says the population remains stable despite variation in water temperature. This is never stated in the passage. And then since the passage says, they aggregate here because of the high temperature, so we could assume, just imagine if the temperature just suddenly cools down to -5 degrees Celsius, then every octopus is gonna leave, right? So B is definitely wrong. And then C and D just doesn't make sense. And I think none of you guys chose C and D. Yeah, so we're gonna just skip that. But B is more of it's more because if water temperature changes, probably those octopus are also gonna leave. So that's why A will be a better choice. Okay, type 1 in the chat box if that makes sense. Yeah, so I would say the claim is kind of a combination of the first sentence, the second sentence, and the last sentence. Yeah, and then if you have any question, you could also put that in the chat box. Yeah, and then option A will be better because of the last sentence, in which it says that the site is used exclusively for reproduction. Only adults were seen here and no juveniles. So that's why they're gonna leave the garden. But B, like the change of temperature does not change the population. This is never mentioned. All right, if there's no other questions, yeah, let's move on. The next one, let's take a try with question 10 over here. Yeah, this is the main idea question, and you probably wanted to use exclusion method as well. All right, I think I also see two groups of answers. Yeah, some students got A and some students got B. And the answer is among, yeah, among A and B. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys last 20 seconds to finalize your answer. Now try to compare the difference between A and B. Okay, and then try to identify the evidence from the text. Okay, let's talk about this question. So so I think we could divide the passage to two parts. The first part is the first sentence, because this is like talking about, is like a generalization, right? And then starting from the second sentence, they are giving an example, a specific example to support the claim made in the beginning. So that's why we definitely need to interpret the first sentence. The first sentence is saying that conservationists worldwide are working to protect ecosystems from habitat destruction and biodiversity loss. And in many cases, initiatives they rely on natural features or processes that can help address the challenges. So the main claim is that if we base on natural features or natural processes, it will be more efficient. Okay, and then later on, within the example, it basically talks about how the nation, the Indian nation partnered with conservation organization to restore the naturally occurring log jams, and they specifically, use this method to promote blueback population recovery. So this is a nature-based approach, and the example proved that nature-based approaches can be very effective ways to achieve conservation goals. A is very tempting, but if you read it like more carefully, it says it shows the importance of collaborative approaches to preserving biodiversity. But collaborative approaches is never the focus of the passage. If you read the first sentence, it never talks about like, oh, we need to collaborate, or like the scientific organizations need always to collaborate with the local like organizations or blah blah blah. Okay, so that's why A is wrong. It's not mentioned. And then D says scientists now realize that nature-based. So here it also talks about nature-based, but it says that nature-based methods offer better long-term solutions to environmental issues than methods that are not nature-based. Between A and D, between B and D, it depends on whether the example shows there are some long-term benefits, but here it never mentions that. It only says it promotes population recovery and didn't really talk about long-term solutions or long-term benefits. So that's why B will be a better choice. Okay. Type 1 in the chat box, if that makes sense. And those are also very good questions. Zach, I think for a question, yeah, for question 20 and 27, those are grammar questions. So yeah, you can send them in the chat box. Send them in the WeChat group, and I think teacher Hazel is gonna answer that. Yeah. All right. The next question. This is also a data evidence question, but this time it's gonna be a bit harder than the first one we saw. Okay, let's take a try with this data evidence question. And for most of the data evidence question, the logic is very straightforward. We identify the claim or the main idea that's mentioned in the question. Here it says which one supports the researcher's conclusion. So you just need to quickly look for the researcher's conclusion and then interpret the claim. Okay, and then try to figure out the connection between the claim, between the graph and the main idea. And then go through all of the options. Okay. Yeah, let's take a try and see if you guys could get it right. All right, let's do the last 20 seconds, and then we're gonna discuss the logic. Okay, I think we got three different answers here. B, C, and D. So let's see. So remember, the first step is to read the question. So let's read the question together. It says, which choice best describes data from the graph that support the researcher's conclusion? Okay, so the next part is we need to identify the conclusion. Okay, so guys, which one do you think would be the conclusion of the within the passage? All right. Zach said the part where they say that they concluded. Okay, that's very good. I think all of you guys are getting used to the pattern here. Usually, if it says which one support the conclusion, then in the passage it will say the researchers or some people concluded something. If the question says like what's the claim, then you in the passage you will say like somebody claimed something, right? So it's pretty obvious, and then usually it's in the last sentence. So this will be the main claim. And then we're going to try to interpret this. Here it says this relative ranking of candidates persisted except among the participants with high ignorability scores. But here this relative ranking is very hard to understand. But it seems that if we say this relative ranking, then the relative ranking should be mentioned before the sentence. So if you go one sentence before it, then you would be able to figure it out. Because here it says that the survey recorded the ratings of the candidates' likability and showed that across participants, ignorable trait candidates were less likable than admirable trait candidates. However, when they factored in the participants' own personality trait scores, then this relative ranking persisted except among the participants with high ignorability scores, which is over here. You see, for most admirable trait candidates, their likability is much higher than ignorable trait candidates. But if it's very high, if the ignorability score is very high, then it's going to be an exception. So that's why option B would actually be the right answer, because B is describing this pattern. Okay, participants with ignorability score of 5 or less, they're gonna rated admirable trait candidates as more likable than ignorable trait candidates. You see, it's more likable than this slide. But participants with an ignorability score of 6 or more, so if it's even higher, then it's gonna be an exception, and they're gonna rate the ignorable trait candidates as equally likable or even more likable than admirable trait candidates because their Y value is higher. Okay, so this is more of a, I would say it's more of a math question because you do need to understand what the like this scatter plot is talking about. Yeah, and remember scatter plots is unit 2 of SAT math. If you get confused, please review the corresponding scatter plots concepts as well. Okay, yeah, so that's the logic of B. And then C says overall participants rated admirable trait candidates as quite likable. And that rating was not significantly affected by the participant ignorability scores. This is wrong. Because you see, their ignorability score, when ignorability score changes, the likability also changes. So statement C is wrong. And then for D says unlike participants with an ignorability score of 6, participants with ignorability score either greater or less than 6 gave admirable trait candidates and ignorant trait candidates different likability ratings. It is a correct description of the graph, but it does not support this part. You see, the main claim is that if the ignorability score is very high, then it's going to be exception. But D is saying only when it's equal to 6, it's an exception. But it didn't take, the scenarios when it's greater than 6 into consideration. So that's why D could also be ruled out. Okay. Type 1 in the chat box if that makes sense. So, following that logic, you should be able to get option B as the final answer. All right, yeah, so that's basically other questions, other mistakes in first module. Is there any other reading questions in the second module you guys want to go over? Yeah, if you do have some extra questions, you can type it in the chat box. And then if you don't have further questions, guys, please download the file that I just sent in the WeChat group. This is a very recent test. It's the May 2025 version, the US version. Okay, so that you can feel like the difficulty of the real exams. And today we're gonna practice with a lot of questions in this test. We're gonna first take a look at some routine module reading questions and then hard module reading questions as well. Yeah, all right, if there's no other questions, let's let's open up this file. Yeah, because now we're gonna practice the questions in rounds. Okay, so each round I'm gonna assign a few questions to you guys. So you probably need to open it yourself so that you can scroll up and down. The first round, we're gonna take a look at routine module vocab questions. And remember, for vocab questions, you always need to find the corresponding evidence that supports your choice of vocab. So let's take a try with question 1, question 2, question 3, and question 4. I think that's it. Oh, actually also question 5. All right. Yeah. So the first 5 questions, those are all vocab questions. I'm gonna give you guys around, let's see, 5 questions. I'm gonna give you guys around 8 minutes. Okay, so this is like the official time limit you're gonna have in the real exam scenario. This is just gonna be a simulation of the real exam. And yeah, I'm gonna set a timer. You guys have 8 minutes. So yeah, please first type 2 if you're ready. If you have the file with you. Yeah, please type 2. So I know all of you guys already on the same page. Okay, yeah, Andy, take your time. So, Zach, it's on page 6. Oops. Hello guys. So I think the time limit, yeah, the time limit went up. But Zach, we're doing start from question 1 to question 5 in the routine module of the exam of May 2025 US version, the file that I just sent in the WeChat group. It's start from page 6. Okay, and then yeah, if you get the file and if you're ready, please type T. I'm gonna wait for everyone to download the file and then got it. Then we're gonna start. All right, I think Jonathan ready, Elizabeth ready, Zach, Rachel is ready, and yeah, Andy, did you get the file? Okay, perfect. So yeah, so let's start from question one. This is gonna be a simulation of the real exam scenario, so let's treat it seriously. And but don't get too pressured, okay? Because this is yeah, at the end of the day, it's not the real test. But yeah, remember the strategies we mentioned, and you have 8 minutes. Timer starts now. Yeah, and so please finish all of the questions, and then at the end of the 8 minutes, I'm gonna ask you guys to stop, and then you could just I'm gonna ask you guys to turn in your 5 answer choice together in the chat box, and then send it to me. Guys, make sure you finish from number one to all the way to number five. Okay, and if you get stuck in the middle, you can choose to skip the question, because your ultimate goal is to finish everything. Oh wait, Elizabeth, I think I sent that in the WeChat group. Yeah, if you check the WeChat group, the file, that file is the exam. Yeah, yeah, it is in WeChat group. Oh, okay, no worries. I'm also gonna show you guys the questions. Then. Yeah, but okay, yeah, if you finish, I can move on to the next question. Yeah, for other students, you can just do the questions on your file so that you can do it on your own pace. Yeah, you guys still got around 3 minutes left, so you probably wanted to double check your answers. Yeah, so far I haven't seen a like 100% correct answer yet. It's like very close, but there's one or two mistakes. So yeah, you still got some time to double check your answer. Okay, yeah, let's also take a look at the last one. Guys, last 20 seconds. Yeah, please finalize your answer and then send it in the WeChat. Oh wait, send it in the chat box. All right, time is up. So I would say overall it's a well done. Okay, I see most of you guys got uh you know, one mistake, two mistakes, or at most three mistakes. But yeah, but there I think all of you guys got question number 3 wrong. Okay, so let's start from the first question. Let me check if any of you guys got number 1 wrong. For number 1, the right answer is B. Yeah, if you got it right, please type 1. Yeah, if you got it wrong, then you could just type in the answer you got wrong. Yeah, I think most of you guys got it right. Yeah, and this one is pretty simple because it asks like, what does drop mean? Drop is just put something down. Okay, that's very good. For the second one, the right answer would be D, inestimable. And remember, all of the vocab questions need some evidence. It's always evidence based. So here it's because it says that area abysmal plane between when mining is permitted. The number of other invertebrates that may inhibit CCC is current, and then we have a blank. And then after this phrase, it says that as the area of biota is poorly sampled and few samples have been taken, cannot be presumed to be representative, which means, it's very hard to do the estimation because the sample is not sufficient. Okay, so that's why it will be inestimable. So option D would be a better choice. Okay, and I think all of you guys got number 3 wrong. Here, I'm gonna give you guys another 20 seconds. Tell me what the evidence you think is for this question. What's the evidence for number 3? Yeah, because if you only look at this phrase like a study revealing blah blah blah, it's very hard. You have to connect the blank with the information mentioned in the first part and also the later part as well. So let's read it together. Here it says that given the healthy genetic diversity, so it mentions healthy genetic diversity. Diversity means, diverse kinds of honeybees. So healthy genetic diversity supports honeybee population robustness. Okay, a matter of public interest given the bee's crucial role as a pollinator of many crops, such as watermelons. So here, the first half is basically saying honeybees are very important, and in order to boost their population, the healthy genetic diversity is the key factor. So this is like the given information. And then the second half is saying that a study revealing what of diversity among U.S. honeybees raised concern. If it raised concern, then it should be a problem. And then it moves on and says, though it also noted the potential to enhance the number of bees carrying several newly discovered genetic variants. So that's why here you should be they lack of a diversity, or there's not really a lot of numbers or a lot of kinds of honeybees. And paucity is the same thing as a lack of diversity. So that's why A will be the right answer. Redundancy is too much, but here it's definitely not too much. If there's a lot of diversity, that's good. So the passage is trying to say that there isn't a lot of diversity. Okay. C, disparity is saying, not equal, but here it's not really about equality. So C doesn't make sense. And repository is just a place for storage or safekeeping, which also doesn't make sense in this context. So that's why paucity, A, would be the right answer. I think, there should be only 2 potential reasons why you got this one wrong. Number 1, you didn't figure out the logic. Like you didn't see how, a good, healthy genetic diversity is important. And then here, since it raised concern, then it will be a lack of diversity. Or number 2, some students just don't recognize paucity. Okay, paucity is just lack of something. If that's the reason, then you probably need to start reciting vocabs. Okay, type 1 in the chat box if that makes sense. So A will be the right answer for this question. All right, let's move on. So the next question will be question number 4. I think for this one, most of you guys got it right. The right answer is for this one, the right answer is B, reliably. And the reason why it's reliably is because the first sentence said, they trained this computer program to identify sidewalks. And you know, and here it seems that when it was tested on images, it's able to identify sidewalks in vast majority of cases, and it was even able to determine whether the sidewalks were concrete or brick. So it shows that it's very powerful and it's able to finish all of those tasks. So that's why it should be reliably. This contains a good connotation. And clumsily, really, and slowly, those contains a negative connotation, which doesn't fit in this context. Okay. And the last one, question number 5, the right answer would be D. Yeah, it will be modest array of consonant sounds. And here, the evidence is actually in the second sentence, because it says that, for example, this language has 11 consonants, and this one has 8. But globally, the median number of consonants per language is over 22, which means they don't have a lot of consonant sounds. If they don't have a lot, then it's modest. Because modest basically means the number is relatively not that big. That's what modest means. And musical, unvarying, or exclusive doesn't have that connotation. Okay, that's for vocab questions. And let's also move on to the next part. Next part, we're gonna take a look at some cross-text questions and also textual evidence questions. So yeah, I'm gonna pick a few questions. So please listen carefully here. We're gonna take a try with number 6. That's a overall structure question. And then number 8. Number 8 is a cross-text question. And then we're also gonna take a try with number 10. This is also a main idea question. And number 12. Number 12 is data evidence question. So yeah, let me say that again. We're gonna try number 6, number 8, number 10, and number 12. And I'm gonna give you guys around 6 minutes for those 5 questions. Yeah, and timer starts now. And for Elizabeth, yeah, if you couldn't access the file, then you can do the questions from my screen. Yeah, and once you finish, you can just tell me, and I'm gonna move to the next one. No, Andy, it's 6, 8, 10, and 12. 6, 8, 10, 12. 4 questions in total. All right, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, for question 8, it's gonna be a little bit wordy. All right. Next one will be question 10. All right. And the last one, guys, remember there's also question 12. Yeah, so in total, there should be 4 questions. All right. And yeah, you guys finish all the questions. You can combine all of your answers together and send it to me. Yeah, last 20 seconds. And we're gonna check the answers. Yeah, and then remember, this is a real exam. This is a real exam that just happened approximately 2 months ago. Yeah, so you could you could estimate the score you're probably gonna have if you've taken the test. All right, for this round, I think most of you guys did a relatively better job than the vocab questions, which I assumed, the vocab questions is because of the vocabs. So, please keep resetting vocabs. The right answer for the 4 questions, starting from number 6, is D as dog, B as boy, D as dog, and C as cat. Okay, D, B, D, C would be the right answer. And I think a lot of students got everything correct. That's very good. Let's just quickly go over each of the questions. For number 6, yeah, for number 6, it's asking which one best describes the overall structure of the text, and I think here you could use exclusion method because in the beginning it mentions movies that are part of a larger franchise are often criticized. Oh, Rachel, okay, no worries about that. Yeah, I think so because you only put three answers. So I assume you skip one. So in the beginning it says they often are often criticized for being predictable. And so that's like the criticism. And then later on, it argues that criticism is mostly undeserved, and it gives the reason. Okay, so that's why it's D. And for number 8, I think this cross text is actually the easiest cross text I've ever seen. Because both of the text is talking about curry, so it's definitely the use of term curry. The rest is either not mentioned or it's only mentioned in one passage and not mentioned in the other one. Okay, for number 10, I'm very glad most of you guys got it right. Yeah, the main idea is here is that the butterfly color might influence the behavior. Uh, and uh, and I think it also mentions the weather condition. You see, on cloudy days and partly cloudy days, their behavior is also going to be different. So that's why option D, a large study suggests that butterfly color and weather condition might influence the behavior of certain butterflies would be the right answer. Okay, just evidence-based. If you find the evidence, then it's going to be right. And then if you didn't see the evidence or it's not mentioned or it's opposite, then you can rule it out. And for the last one, number 12, the statement here is that the total irreparable di Cochiti is, and then it's very easy to see over here, 82.1. Okay. Any questions so far? If there's no question, please type 1 in the chat box. Okay, it's excellent job for this round. The next round, we're gonna take a look at the last two reading questions in this module. So let's take a try with number 13 and number 15. 13 is another data evidence. It's not too hard, just be careful with the information. 15 is a logical inference, and remember, for logical inference, you should always focus on the logic. Always lays in the last two sentences. But that doesn't mean you don't need to read the rest. You need to skim the beginning of the text and then like mostly focus on the last two sentences. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys around 3 minutes for this round. And you can start from number 13. Yeah, Jonathan, is just the number 13 and number 15. Just those two questions. Okay, after we finish this one, I'm gonna turn to the second module, and we're also gonna take a look at a few questions. All right. Yeah, and this is question 15. All right, let's talk about those two questions. I think for number 13, everyone got it right. Yeah, it says, for example, and here we need to, uh, find the right information. So, for example, if you look at option A, it says Jacana is a caldera volcano. That's correct. And Fernandina is a stratovolcano. That's wrong. It's a shield volcano. Okay, so that's why A would be wrong. And then if you just follow the same logic, I think you guys should end up with option D, right? It's a shield volcano, and the other one is stratovolcano. And for number 15, the right answer is also pretty straightforward. The right answer will be option A. Okay, yeah. And then for this one, the main focus would just be the last two sentences. Because here it says, they found no evidence that red uniform teams are more likely than other teams to win. So that's why their performance at its home stadium would probably have remained roughly the same if players had not been wearing red uniforms. It's not really gonna make any difference. All right, yeah, is there any question with that? If there's no other questions, we're gonna move on to the second module, and then immediately you'll realize that the question is gonna be much harder. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time, so we're gonna try a few questions for each of the question type. The first two, we're gonna try number 1 and number 2. Those are two vocab questions. Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys around 3 minutes for this round. Those vocab is gonna be much harder, but the logic stays the same. You need to find the corresponding evidence. All right, last 20 seconds. Then we're gonna discuss the questions. All right, so let's talk about this few questions. Here, number one, you need to figure out the logic. And number two, you need to, be able to recognize all the vocabs. So if you doesn't recognize a lot of the vocabs, then you probably need to keep reciting the vocab lists. In the first question, it says that while what literary forms such as short stories are recognizable. So the first this type of literary forms, they are recognizable, and the other one is called intergeneric forms, and then those are real forms, and then they they might use elements of both fiction and essays to create something unclassifiable. So the first type is recognizable, and the second one is unclassifiable. And then intergeneric basically means they're combining different genres together. So the first one would be like stick to only one genre, and it's like more recognizable. So it's a more common genre, and that's why it's gonna be orthodox. Okay, orthodox basically means it's something very common and commonly accepted. That's what orthodox means. So here we're making comparison. While the orthodox literary forms are recognizable, but the intergeneric forms are not. So that's why B will be the right answer. Intermediate and neutral doesn't have that meaning, so that's why they're wrong. And for the second one, I think the logic is even more clear, because here it says that the channels widens and divides, and it reduce flow velocity, and then what sedimentary particle suspension. If there's particle suspension, then they're gonna stay in the flow, and they will never deposit. But in the last sentence, it says particles are thus deposited, eventually forming deltic lobes. So if they deposited, that means it stops the particle suspension. And the only word that have the meaning of stop is interrupting. It interrupts particle suspension, and thus particles get deposits. Okay. Any questions so far? So the right answer here would be actually B for the first one, and then C for the second one. Yeah, if it does make sense, please type 1 in the chat box. Yeah, and I see a very clear pattern that when it comes to vocab questions, we usually got more mistakes compared to other question types. So reciting vocabs is definitely what you should do before the exam, because you see those questions are exactly the questions in the real exam. And then I'm not gonna ask you to do it, but if you check question number 4 here, we have inertia, decisiveness, turnover. Yeah, a lot of different vocabs. Okay, let's move on. And the last round, I do want you guys to take a look a little bit more textual evidence and data evidence. So let's take a try with question 9. And wait, actually, yeah, because we already practiced data evidence. So this round, let's do number 9 and number 10. So 2 textual evidence questions. Yeah, and I'm gonna give you guys around 4 minutes. Remember, for textual, this is textual evidence in harder module, so should be a lot of information. Try to identify the main claim first, and start from there to solve the question. All right. Yeah, and then remember there's also question number 10. Yeah, let's also finish this one. And then we're gonna discuss the two questions together. All right. I think most of the students got number 10 correct. But for number 9, it's going to be a little bit tricky. So let's start from number 9. For question number 9, here, it says the finding of it best for which statement. So we need to identify the finding, and the finding will be this part. It says that if on the crown age, the crown age of the clade of southern beaches is 16.4 million years. And if you also read the first sentence, their initial hypothesis is that the surviving members, the species on the South Pacific island of Grande Terre are the surviving members who inhabited other islands in the region before the complete emergence of the island 37 million years ago. If they did, survive, or like if they did exist 37 million years ago, then the 16.4 million would be wrong. So here, this finding actually disapproves the first hypothesis. And that's why option C would be the right answer. The C says, the southern beaches found on Grande Terre are not members of clade that existed before the island completely emerged. Okay, this statement would be the right answer. Since 16.4 is much smaller than 37 million years ago, which means, those clades are not the surviving members. Instead, they actually existed after the emergence of the island. So that's why C will be the better choice than the other options. And then for question number 10, I think this one is pretty straightforward. Because it says that the student claims that some modern-day irrigation methods used in southwest states, such as those places, have a lineage that long predates the completion of Lake Sabrina. And C is supporting that because C says the irrigation systems developed by those people in what is now central Arizona in the 7th century was simple but made use of hydraulic engineering design are used by today's engineers. Okay, so 7th century CE is definitely before the development of Lake Sabrina. So C would be the right answer. And that's the difficulty of the real exam. I don't know how do you guys feel, but I think at least you could see two patterns. Number one, it's highly evidence-based. If you could find evidence, you could understand the strategies we talk about, you should be able to get most of the questions correct. But also, if it's vocab questions, if it's overall structures, if it's main ideas, it's actually also very hard. And number two, when it comes to the second module, the difficulty get increased a lot, but you still got the same time limit. So that's why you definitely need to practice at least 5 or 6 real mock exams before taking the the real SAT in the future, because you need to get used to the timing and be able to finish all the questions in time. Because what happened to a lot of students is that they just get stuck in one question, and they run out of time in the end, and they just guess a lot of answers. So in order to better adjust to the timing, you probably wanted to finish a few mock tests. So the homework for today's class, remember I sent the, I think it's June 2025 mock exam in the WeChat group. So if you have time, you can take like, I don't know, 2 hours. Just treat it as a real exam and finish both the math part and reading part so that you can check the answers, which is attaching the end of the file, and then you can have an estimate of your score. Okay. And yeah, if you guys want to do more practices, I also have some extra tests, which I'm also gonna send in the WeChat group. Yeah, so I guess that's it for today's class. And yeah, let's keep it up. I would say it's a well done for most of the questions, but for vocabs, you guys definitely need to pay more attention to it. All right, yeah, so that's it for today's class, and have a good night. I'm gonna see you next time. Bye bye.